Hello, I'm Dr. Sam Hancock of the Emerald Planet and Emerald Planet TV. We come to you on a week-to-week basis from Washington, D.C. in the United States as we look around the globe in 144 different nations, looking for those 1,000 best practices, the technology, services, and products that are making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And as we have a planet of 9 billion people by 2038 and possibly 12 to 13 billion by the end of this century, how are we going to be able to take care of all these people on planet Earth? And that's what Emerald Planet's all about. We come to you looking at the solutions, the best practices from around the globe as we create the Emerald Planet. Hello, welcome to the Emerald Planet. We're making a difference as we move through the 21st century. And seeing the long-term impacts of climate change. We're glad to have you. Thank you for being with us. Looking at the country of Nepal as a worldwide lesson, and I guess we can call this an international model program, and is brought to us by Dr. Malcolm J. Odell Jr., Evaluation Training Sustainable Development Specialist for Appreciative Planning and Action Consulting. And looking at this, I'll call you Mac, that's what he goes by. Looking at taking this, the Great Himalayan Trail, we're going to talk about that in depth. How is this in some ways going to expand the tradition of a very viable Nepali society? In other ways, how is this actually transforming a very classical, traditional Nepali society into something that's even better, but yet not giving up necessarily their traditions or their local wisdom?
Well, first of all, when we were up in Makalu, when we were sitting around drinking.
The Makalu is where? Makalu
Barn. Well, I think in an earlier episode we talked about the Makalu Barn Conservation Project, where we developed the basic 3 questions that drive this whole process.
And those 3 questions are?
What's working? What's even better look like? How do we get there?
Fantastic.
Okay, so having developed that and having shared that with the Women's Empowerment Project and learning from them some tricks about empowerment art, getting people to draw pictures, and getting them to share success stories. I think I mentioned in a previous program that they had created 60,000 businesses without any training. And when we
now let's repeat that. Yeah. 60,000 new businesses without actually even training for that.
No training. The program was literacy, savings, and ultimately making micro businesses, but they were still in the savings and learning and reading part of the program when they had 60,000 new businesses. And when asked, how the hell did you how did you do that? They said, we did just what you told us. Every meeting, every workshop, everything we do, we start with sharing our successes. And there was a woman in my group who was selling chickens, and I thought maybe I could sell eggs. Another one said, maybe I could sell vegetables. And the next thing you know, we had every woman in our group had a business.
That's absolutely fantastic.
And the training materials that were supposed to be developed to teach them how to do this were still in the cooler, hadn't come out yet.
Now looking at the trail.
That was what drove the trail.
Okay.
Because we said, if that can happen on such a large scale, why can't it happen on a 500-mile trail going from one end of the country to the other, taking ecotourism from its narrow slot into Everest and Annapurna, where it's pummeling the environment and pummeling it's too crowded. Let's spread it out so that people from one end of the country to the other get some of the benefit and can show off the culture, the beauty, the wildlife, the snow leopards in their country.
Yeah. Now looking at this trail, and again, end to end, it's about 538 miles. And so why choose this particular route? Why not somewhere else? And why in the very upper portion of the culture and the country versus being at the lower levels?
Well, there are roads in the lower levels. People can go those places by road, but people love to go trekking in Nepal. Trekking in Nepal is a dream for most people who would ever think of it, they could do it. And but there's only these two places that are really too overcrowded. Why not show off the diversity of cultures, language, people, religions across the entire country? All these wonderful villages, beautiful villages, and people will then have a real goal. This is like the Appalachian Trail. You know, even if you only walk on it for a day or two, you have the vision that this trail goes from Georgia to Maine. You know, when I retire, maybe I can do the whole thing. But you can do it in small pieces or large pieces. But in Nepal, there's going to be a village, a tea shop, a restaurant, and homestay, small lodge, and as more tourists come through, bigger and bigger lodges, all owned and operated by the local people.
Now, looking at this map here, we have major names for all these different areas. Are these some of the national parks that they have you're tying together? Explain this National Park Service
now
and the trail.
Well, since Annapurna and Everest showed the power of ecotourism, but didn't spread it anywhere, we thought, let's see if we can get it going across the country. Okay.
In other words, do it in the beginning.
In the beginning, right? So we start one batch at a time. We plan to have 5 teams of experts, because Nepal now has experts in APA. They've taught themselves, they taught each other, and they're teaching others right now. I just got an invitation to a workshop. One of our colleagues is running on APA, and and we'll put this to work on the trail to get. And these parks are all across Nepal now, and they're all using a similar model of community ownership, getting the communities to own the parks. And there's one story that's particularly good about that. When we had been doing the APA thing for a while in Makalu, we got a radio call from the far end of the park. A 5-day walk away, the ranger station said, the people are camping out in the middle of winter in the park looking for poachers. They've rounded up a bunch of poachers. They brought them to our ranger station. What do we do? And my partner, Dustin Ryan, said, first of all, you congratulate them. Then you take the poachers all to the police post, book them up, put them in jail, file charges, send their trophies to wildlife headquarters, then go back to the village where they came from and throw one hell of a big party. You have sacrifice an ox or something, have barbecue and a big party, and you thank the people and tell them, God bless you, keep it going. And he put the radio down and he said, Mac, they own this park. The people own this park. We can go home now. But instead of going home, we went and started the idea of the Great Himalaya Trail.
Yeah, and we're looking at different parts of this trail. This is actually just an absolutely pristine area. It's very beautiful. So how do you work with the people, or do you even have to do that? They intuitively understand they have to protect it, they have to keep it clean. This keeps coming out in the narratives that you're sharing about the villages. There's a saying, our village is really dirty, we need to clean it up, and they go clean it up.
But you know what, it takes a stimulus. It takes a little stimulus, because they don't necessarily think that they can do this. Because if they'd been part of the Makalu project, and if the Makalu people had come down and taught them how to do it, that would be different. But they're in these little villages doing their farming and doing their things. They really haven't thought it through. But when we come in, gather them together, and we ask them those 3 questions, they say, oh my gosh, look at the possibilities here. And they grab them and they run with them. And the next thing, and that's the way we do it. We start in one village and move to the next village. And we ask them how it's going. And then we say, would you like to go to the next village with us? Maybe you could run the meeting in the next village. And we create a cadre of people who go from village to village.
So this is the train the trainer. You're actually training them and creating them as you're moving along,
we're moving along,
village to village.
So we don't have to do all 500. We don't have to do all 500 villages. We just need 5 teams to start the ball in 5 different spaces and let them go from there to there. We start with a little pilot project. My partner Brian was just out doing a pilot with the Snow Leopard Conservancy, and we're tying in the snow.
And this is the same thing. Have the 3 questions, let them answer them, and then just progress from there.
That's it. Yep. And instead of building latrines in building latrines in remote areas, they're going to build them in their own areas. They're going to build them in their own villages. And the same for the trail. Improve the trail, make it better, clean up the villages, make it attractive, talk about who's going to start a tea shop, who's going to start a restaurant, who wants to start
So
with a
each
homestay.
of these conversations are in each of the villages,
Yeah.
and then this can be replicated along this trail through these
Yeah, and if
500 different
And
villages.
if we're lucky, we'll have some women there from the Women's Project who will come and say, hey gals, why don't you start a savings club? And start a savings club, and you'll be the village bankers to bank and support these activities. And that's where it goes from there.
Now, looking at these 4 photographs we have here, again, these are absolutely pristine areas. They're really gorgeous. But what are we seeing and what are we not seeing here that makes us long-term and permanent in these 4 different areas as an examples that we're looking at right now in this photograph?
Well, first of all, we're starting to see communities get together as owners of the environment. They recognize the environment like those people up in Maklu. This is our forest, and we don't want poachers. We want snow leopards, and we want people to be able to see the snow leopards. And I've seen some snow leopards, and I could take people to go see the snow leopards. But if we don't take care of this environment around us, those snow leopards are gone. That's history. So they see that protection of the environment is income in their pockets. And they respond accordingly.
Okay, what would be the next lesson? I'm going to try to bring 3 lessons out of this. So we got 1, if we're going to protect the environment, we bring people in and we have to do it, okay?
Okay, first of all, the lessons is you're getting conservation for climate change. These people on the 500-mile trail along the whole length of the country are going to be creating a sustainable environment. Trees, forests, community forests of their own like they did in Kaligadaki. And that is going to be green, more greening of Nepal. And if you look at satellite imagery of Nepal today, and you look at it 25 years ago, you'll see the reforestation of the Himalayas is already taking place because of this participatory approach to and so that'll be the first thing. Second thing will be sharing culture, the richness of these cultures. People don't know about Rai culture, Limbu culture, Sherpa culture, Brahmins, Chetris, all the different castes, including the untouchables who now in Dankuda, my village, are on the city council and running hardware stores and a computer store, which started with bringing an untouchable into the high school part of it. And the third thing will be incomes, be raising the incomes for some of the poorest yet proudest people in the entire world. And that'll be making a difference. Economic empowerment. This will make Nepal prosperous.
We have 30 seconds. So I'm going to leave this photograph we have up here, this pristine scene of Nepal. Using these 3 questions, how can we take this around the world to solve problems that have some that are even more profound than what you found in Nepal, but equally, it seems like, can be solved with these 3 simple questions?
Well, I go back to the Columbia catastrophe. PhDs galore trying to find out what was the problem and not recognizing that if they just looked for the successful O-rings, they'd be way ahead. This is what we've overcomplicated, and we've done all these PhDs like me have made the development process so complicated that only professionals can do it, and they have to get training, and it goes around and around, and we never run out of need for more and more training, more education, whereas development practitioners can take these 3 questions and bring about change immediately within 2 hours going on, and then come back 2 years later and find it's still there.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And thank you for being with us as we create the Emerald Planet.